Hello Laziali all over the world, special episode of Lazio Lounge. We are here. This is the Stadio Flaminio, or what is left of the Stadio Flaminio. You're probably aware that Lazio is thinking about rebuilding the stadium and doing like the Stadio of the Aquile. I'm Vittorio Campanile, with me as usual, unfortunately, Alasdair McKenzie. Alasdair, this is the Stadio Flaminio, center of Rome, and it's a disaster.
Yeah, we've been planning on doing this for a while, and it's actually quite depressing now coming here today because we've just walked around, I'd say, 3/4 of it outside, trying to find a way in. Unfortunately, we couldn't get in. And yeah, rubbish everywhere. There's plants growing out of the sides of the stands. I mean, it's just completely taken over by nature, really. And this is a place that was open, hosting 30,000 seater crowds only 10 years ago. So yeah, it's sad what's happened to this place, and let's hope they can actually do something with it.
Yes, because I mean, it's in the center of Rome. It's a historical stadium, and Lazio fan especially has fond memories of the stadium. My dad just said he saw Silvio Piola playing here. I saw Paolo Di Canio playing here, and this is.
I didn't see anyone playing here.
This is a very Lazio fan area. We are Flaminio, where a lot of Lazio fan here. Just behind us, I don't know if you can see it, this is Corso Francia, and behind there in these buildings there's the home of Simone Inzaghi, if you want to know where he was living when he was in Rome. So
do you want to come with a packet of eggs in about a week's time?
Yeah, and let's walk around. This is completely lived alone, and collapsing. Inside is terrible, and it would be perfect for Lazio to build the stadium here, because it's a perfect place for a stadium in the center of Rome.
Well, do you want to talk a bit to begin with about why this has ended up happening?
Yep.
Before we get on to Lazio?
Yep.
Because I mean, like you say, there's incredible history here. I mean, your dad was just saying, I had no idea it was quite as old as it is, but since the 1930s, was it? Designed
Yes.
by a very prominent architect.
Nervo, family
This is part
Nervo.
of the problem, right? It's a site of architectural value, which means of all the many problems with actually changing anything in Italy, that is one part of the red tape you have to get through to change it. But you can see there's only, we've not got there quite yet, but there's only one part of it that's actually covered by a roof. So that's another problem.
Definitely.
But up until 2011, they were still having Six Nations games here, home of the Italian rugby team. And I think it was selling out for most of the games. So they wanted to find somewhere where they could get a bigger crowd in. I think they wanted to expand this stadium, but they weren't allowed to because of all these issues. And so ever since
It's been abandoned.
And how many stories have we heard about what could happen to it? But
Definitely. And again, I say it's very close to the center. It would be great for fans and for tourism. Piazza del Popolo is really 5 minutes away from here.
Yeah.
And you can simply reach here and live the stadium 7 days a week. So this is abandoned. The former mayor, because there has been election this week in Rome for the new mayor, still haven't been elected. The former mayor, Raggi, offered this stadium to Lotito, what was it, a couple of months ago? Maybe before the summer, June, May. And Lotito said, yes, why not? Let's talk about it. So he brought some architecture, some engineer to visit the stadium, the situation, because obviously like this is not possible. You need to make a roof to cover all the stadium. You need to make 40,000 seats at least. Now I think now it's 30, something
30,
like that.
yeah.
And obviously parking, because this is the area close to us. There are not enough parkings, and obviously if you want to go and watch the match, you need more. So Lazio had made the homework, and they are still doing analysis to see if it's possible. But Lotito replied to the mayor, yeah, why not? Now obviously there has been election, so we have to see who wins, if they're still going to be offering the stadium to Lazio. But it would make sense for Rome to build a new stadium here.
Yeah, and to put that in context a bit as well, we've spoken before. We did a podcast about the stadium a while ago, where we talked about this problem in Italy where to build a new ground you essentially need to do it on the site of an existing sporting structure of some sort. When Roma were trying to build their stadium, that was on an old race course. So that's a big part of the reason why this makes so much sense as well, because Lotito bought ground, didn't he, in the north of Rome to build a stadium, 20 years ago or something? But that's not going to happen. So this does seem like the thing that's going to make the most sense if it works. But I guess that's where we're going to have to maybe see a compromise between Lotito's vision and the reality of having a city centre stadium historic site. The narrative of it is great. I mean, it would be the perfect home for Lazio.
Definitely,
like you say,
it would be amazing.
Flaminio kind of area and kind of heartland of Lazio. And would really help modernise the club as well as the stadium.
Yeah, obviously, as you saw before, there's not the chance to build a commercial area. There's not.
Unless it's in the stadium.
Yeah, it has to be in the stadium. As you can see behind me, there's the Corso Francia. There are buildings there, so you cannot, send people away. Same thing on the other side, obviously. This is Viale Tiziano, so it's very popular, very huge. Yeah. And so you cannot build what both Lazio and Roma wanted, right? Hotels, shopping center and things like that. You can definitely build them inside the stadium, but not as much. But still, it's in the center of Rome, very easy to reach. I mean, if the stadium was outside Rome, it would have been complicated. Alasdair moved here a couple of years ago. How it's easy to move around Rome, especially if you don't have the car. I mean, it's complicated, right? Imagine to move outside every time to go to the match. It would take ages.
Well, exactly, and that's one of the big bonuses, I guess, when Roma were doing their stadium project. One of the many problems they encountered that they got held up by was getting permission for the transport plan, I think, and the road and how they're going to make that work. Whereas I don't know the details, but I would assume here they wouldn't have the same issues because it's on the tram line that takes you directly from a metro stop. There's a train line coming in from northern Lazio, from Viterbo, which takes you directly to about 5 minutes from here. I mean, there's a big road right behind us. All of that infrastructure kind of already exists in this area as it is, so presumably that would help.
And it's funny enough that the tram was built for the 1990 World Cup. So, it was built for football and it will be used for football. Now, the biggest concern, unfortunately, of this stadium is this has been built in 1932, guys. It was called Stadio Torino before, to remember the big Torino that died in the air accident, and then was rebuilt by Nervo, the architecture, and renamed Stadio Flaminio. The biggest problem is that there are, how do you say it, Alasdair? There are architecture...
the
Collateral.
Yeah.
So Lazio has to rebuild it. Look here, guys. Look here. I mean, this is in front of the stadium. Look, abandoned completely.
It's so sad, isn't it? I mean, it's being used as a bus stop for tour buses here.
Yeah. So as you see, this is the only cover. Let me show it. At the moment. So it's just what I would say the Tribuna Monte Mario in the Stadio Olimpico. It's very small, and it's the only cover. Obviously, if you want to build a modern stadium, you have to do it all around. And can they do it? This is the question, because before you couldn't do it. Now, a couple of years ago, there has been a new rule in Italy, a new law in Italy that says that for security and from entertainment purpose, you can cancel the architecture.
All right, yeah, the rules around altering sites of architectural value.
So this means that Lazio could destroy the stadium and rebuild it. Obviously, they have to get the authorization of the mayor. So now Lotito should present a plan to the mayor how to rebuild the stadium if the Lazio find that it's possible to do it as they want. Now, the biggest question, Alasdair, is the mayor, Raggi, gave the authorization to the Lazio, of the stadium to the Lazio. Now we have to see if the new mayor will still extend this thing to Lazio, and that's another question mark to add to the possibility if really this stadium can be rebuilt, right?
Yes, I mean, I did see some. I mean, some members of the Rome Council have kind of been talking about this in the last couple of weeks, and the one thing that did kind of concern me a little bit, there was one, I can't remember exactly who it was now, but there was a comment about the fact that this would be still council owned if this happens, and Lazio would have access to, a 30-year lease or something. But for me, I mean, that would still be better than the current situation, but Lazio want to own their own stadium.
Yeah.
Surely.
I think what they discussed was the lease for 30 years, and then Lazio buy the stadium from the mayor from Rome. I don't know if that's an option that could happen, but it's what happened, for example, for Juventus and other clubs. So we hope that this could happen for Lazio. You see behind me other buildings. I mean, this is Flaminio, and let's walk around, because here it's simply embarrassing. Here it's simply embarrassing. This, it's a stadium full of memories, and it's really collapsing. So even from security purpose, they should allow Lazio to rebuild it and to make it a modern stadium. Even because we went to the Stadio Olimpico, and we have to say that watching a match there, it's quite difficult and it's not very comfortable. Being to England stadium, you can really see the difference. And
And the very simple reason that for a club like Lazio to modernise, they need this. They need this extra source of revenue, of sponsorship, of everything else, all the other benefits that you get from having a new stadium, as well as presumably increased attendances from people who are more willing to actually come to games than they currently are to go and sit in the Olimpico and need a set of binoculars to see anything on the pitch. And like you say, ease of access, I think, is a huge part of it. The attendance problems across Italy, across Serie A for decades now, and a lot of that is linked to the fact that people don't want to make the effort, which a lot of the time is a big effort, to get yourself out to the stadium late at night, often on a Thursday or a Sunday or whatever, to go and watch a game when you can sit at home and do it. Whereas if you come to a place like this and it's modernising, it becomes your home, and it can actually offer you a match day experience in a way that the Olimpico doesn't, it makes it much more of an appealing thing to do. And I know you already bring your family to the Olimpico, but it surely, as a father, it'd be more appealing to you to have a little day out at the stadium if there's other things to do, if there's shops, if there's good food on offer, all these things that currently just you don't get in a Lazio match.
Absolutely. And then the other important thing is you can give the name title to a sponsor. The stadium could become, the Coca-Cola Stadium, for example. Whatever you want, and make money out of that. Just to show you, should be the main entrance, the entrance for what we call Monte Mario, the expensive part of the stadium. Behind me, you can see it. There's the road. It's like 10 meters from here, and there's a building there. So we are really inside the city. So it's very particular. That's why you cannot build, a shopping center here. But Alasdair, I mean, look, it's terrible. We are not able to come inside, but inside it's awful.
Plants everywhere, weeds. Yeah. It's sad for Rome, though. This is we're talking about this as a Lazio perspective, as a potential home for Lazio. But this reflects badly on the whole city.
Absolutely.
Maybe even the whole country.
It would make sense, right, to the mayor to do something.
And what's the point in saying a place has architectural value if it looks like this? Look at it. There's graffiti all over it up there. There's weeds growing out of it. It's rusting. I mean, if this is considered a historic site, then how can it be allowed to lie here for 10 years without anything happening to it? There cannot be this continued resistance to allowing new projects to develop. And there's been a lot of talk since the pandemic from people in football, from politicians, about the need for Italy to loosen up, to change its ways when it comes to restructuring, rebuilding, or new building projects, because as we've seen, Fiorentina, Bologna, Cagliari, there's clubs all across Italy trying to get things done and struggling. And Rome, obviously, the most famous of all with their abandoned project. But I mean, it's just sad. This is probably one of the biggest kind of white elephants we've got in the country, where it's just sitting here doing absolutely nothing, right in the middle of the capital.
In the middle of the capital, in the middle of Rome. And yes, architecture, but if this collapses tomorrow, we lose everything. So, it's better to destroy it and rebuild it and be safe than keep it like this, and in 5-10 years, maybe it's gonna go down because, it's completely abandoned. It's look at it. It's terrible. So, why they don't allow Lazio Roma. I mean, obviously we are Lazio fan and we would love to have it Lazio here, but center of Rome totally collapsed, totally left alone. And we know that stadium revenue, match day revenue are so important for clubs. Imagine here, coming here to the match, Alasdair, you walk from Piazza del Popolo, 10 minutes walk, nothing huge, even you could do it. Get in,
Plenty of bars on the way.
Plenty of bars, modern stadium, really comfort seats, big difference compared to the Stadio Olimpico. And center of Rome, you watch your match, or you're a tourist, you're coming from Charlotte, and you say, yeah, I'm Piazza del Popolo, let's go and watch the new Lazio Stadium. 5 minutes walk, we are here. Oh, there's a shop, let's buy the Lazio shirt, okay?
For me, it's a big part of it as well, because Lazio don't do enough to tap into the tourist potential, the football tourist potential of the city. And a lot of people who haven't visited Rome probably won't see that. But on a match day weekend, right? If you're around the centre of Rome, what Roma do is they have these little vans kind of sitting outside the Vatican. There's always one in Spagna, and they have these girls dressed up in Roma tops who are trying to sell you tickets and trying to kind of get people along to the stadium, as well as Roma having more shops, and they're just more of a presence in the city centre. And Lazio don't do any of that, as far as I've seen. There's not really much to try and even alert people to the fact that a match is happening on a match day, and it's not something you walk past and find, because the Olimpico is in an area of the city that you don't really go to unless you're going directly to a match. So I think that having this location would be a massive boost to just getting that, piquing people's interest a bit, because there's loads of people who come to Rome as a tourist, and there's loads of people who like to take in a game when they're on holiday. It's a pretty common thing to do nowadays.
And if it's close to the center, it's easy. Instead of going to Torreva, wherever they want to build it, I don't remember anymore. That takes 30 minutes by train. Then you get there, there's nothing there. What do? You just watch the match and go away. So
and everyone knows that if you come to visit Rome, you want to see Lazio, Cremonese, and Coppa Italia. I mean, that's the dream. So, I mean, I think as well, Lazio would benefit from the reduced capacity, from having a stadium that's stands are closer to the pitch. We all know, anyone who's been to a Lazio game, that the atmosphere is incredible when you're in the stands, but there's such a gap between the stands and the pitch because of the running track and all that can dissipate a little bit. So it would be amazing to have that atmosphere tightly packed in, right on top of the opposition. I think it would, you would probably, as well as the financial aspects, I imagine you'd also see kind of sporting benefits of having that and intimidating opposition.
So last Thursday, Lazio played against Lokomotiv Moscow, and Patrick scored, and I was in Tribuna Tevere, so one of the best plays you could get at the stadium. I had to call my dad and say, how the hell did Patrick score? Because I couldn't see it. And I was in Tribuna Tevere, not Curva Nord. I couldn't see it because there is
You probably just couldn't believe your eyes.
Well, obviously it was Patrick scoring.
We're
so
still talking about Patrick scoring like 2 weeks later.
There is the running lane. There's like 10 meters from the pitch. And
Tribuna Tevere is probably the best view as well.
Yeah, and I could understand what happened. So in a stadium small like this, 40,000 seats, close to the stadium, like in England pitch, most of them, it would be simply amazing. Now, one of the problem we have, Alasdair, is obviously the parking, because yes, I would go by train, bus, etc. But if you need to park, one of the question is, can we build parking area big enough for the stadium? Now, as you can see here, there's a lot of car parked, but there's not enough space, because as we showed, there's this Viale Tiziano, you see some buildings there, so probably you have to go underground, and this is another question. This is another problem. Can they do something there? Well, that's what they're working for, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I already said, so that is one of the issues. Getting the increased capacity is a big issue. Getting it to have a roof put on top of it is an issue. There are all sorts of issues with this, as well as obviously the cost of it, and whatever that's going to be is not going to be cheap. And most of all, the political side of it. I mean, that's always the biggest problem. But I mean, like I said, the fact that there's already there's a head start here, because there is an existing stadium sitting right here. There are roads, motorways connecting to here. There's public transport connecting to here, And when it comes to public interest, I saw a quote from one of the council guys, and he said it's 99.9% public interest. And that this might sound weird to people, but that was one of the hurdles Roma had to overcome as well, was to say this new stadium is in the public interest. And surely it is. I mean, what public interest does this serve currently?
I mean, I was thinking about Everton is building the new stadium, right? And Liverpool is helping Everton building the stadium. There is public interest. They said it's a protect area near the sea.
Yeah,
they find a way around it, and they're building an amazing stadium. And we're talking about Everton. No offense to Evertonian, but we're not talking about a huge team. And Lazio is not able to build a stadium here because mayor or everybody is trying to create problems. Instead, in England, they're solving problems for you.
I think that's the essential part of it, isn't it? That's what it is. There's a reluctance to improve stadiums. There's a resistance to new projects in Italy. There has been for years, and I think if the interest isn't only in the club, it's in the game in general, it's in the league, it's in the health of the national team, it's for everything. You know, the fact that Serie A has fallen behind other leagues since the 80s and the 90s is a large part down to the fact that since Italia 90 there has been no whole-scale building improvement project. That does make a huge difference. Financially, the clubs are not able to keep up. You see the losses clubs are making after the pandemic, but even pre-pandemic. And that's just trying to keep up. I mean, you have to spend to try and keep up with the other top teams in Europe, but if you're not raising your own revenue through your corporate hospitality, through your sponsorship, through your match day ticket sales, everything else that goes on a match day, then you're missing out massively compared to your competition.
And for example, if Lazio was able to build the stadium, considering that at the moment big teams or Juventus have, this would be a big advantage for Lazio. Because, you know, money-wise, revenue-wise, we could pass Roma, Napoli, teams like that. For example, I was looking, Alasdair, before we wrap it up, game attendance this year. Lazio has more game attendance than Napoli. You know, that's simply unbelievable. Napoli fans are much more than Lazio, but San Paolo is such a disgrace. It's a terrible stadium. I know you've been there, so you can confirm it. It's terrible,
Well,
and
it's
people
better
doesn't
than
go.
It was 2 years ago because it got a little bit of renovation for the university games, but yeah, again, really far outside the city centre, difficult to get to, and not particularly attractive, especially from the outside. So yeah, I mean, but there's problems like this all across the city. I mean, Napoli is quite an extreme example because De Laurentiis even said, you know, he said it was like a toilet, and then he was going to move Napoli's football team to Bari instead, because not that Bari's an awful lot better, but yeah, this is a problem that goes across the country, and the frustrating thing here for me is that there's an answer sitting right in front of us, and it's not acceptable to me to have a beautiful old stadium like this that, you know, as recently as 10 years ago was hosting international rugby matches, and now it's nothing. It reflects badly on everyone. It reflects badly on Italian football, on Rome as a city, on Italy as a country. It's really unbelievable, actually. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is. So, crossing fingers, maybe something's going to move in the next couple of months. Obviously, the new mayor have to be announced, so it's going to take time. But we hope that Lazio continue the process, and we have good news coming up, because I mean, this would make a huge difference for Lazio, right, Alasdair?
Yeah, I mean, we have to keep our fingers crossed. I don't think we should expect that there's going to be anything massive happening anytime imminently.
We are in Italy, let's not forget about that.
But we said when we recorded our podcast about Lazio's stadium situation during COVID, so about a year and a half ago, we did say this is the situation and we're not that optimistic that anything's going to change. So it is good that in that time there have been some sort of changes, right? I mean, we are talking about this again. The Flaminio is a real project again, where it seemed like it was dead in the water not very long ago. So yeah, like you say, fingers crossed they can actually make it happen.
Okay, guys, I think we can wrap it up here. Tell us if you like this podcast. Obviously, if you can support us on Patreon, we can try and do more of these things that I think you could be very interested. So thank you very much.
Ciao.